Well, a big hello and welcome to Leadership Liftoff, a podcast for teams under 100. My name's Onagre. I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach, and for the last 8 years, I've been leading teams off under 100 in the nonprofit space. And today, you're going to be hearing from a good friend of mine, and also one of my trainers, leadership trainers I had when I was at a leadership college in Australia. It is brilliant. It's packed with wisdom. And Cam gives really great practical frameworks. So if you're leading, you need to listen to this podcast because we start diving into the basics, which are often not so basic. So listen in. And hey, before we get going, would you like, subscribe, share? And if you get value out of it, let people know. So let's hop into the podcast. Well, Cam, thank you so much for being here. We go back quite a bit.
A long way.
A long way. As I wrote to you on LinkedIn the other day, I've been ripping off your leadership content for some time now. So for context,
you're welcome.
For context for people listening, when I went to a leadership college in Australia, Cameron was one of my trainers, and I gleaned so much from you. And so I'm really excited for this conversation. I'm going to have you toot your own horn in a sec so that people can get to know who you are. Cam is currently working with business leaders and people who would fall into the space of teams under 100 people. And so I think it's going to be really cool to hear it from, it's one thing to hear it from a person who's in it, and there's another way to experience it with someone who's working with those type of people and to get a different vantage point of view. So Cam, so good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here. And it has been a while. What a wonderful time it was in college together, getting to see you grow and all the other students in your intake. And it's been amazing just watching all of you go on to do incredible things. So glad to be here, glad to share, and happy to get straight into it.
Perfect. Cam, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing right now, what you have done, just so people know who you are.
Yeah, so obviously you've mentioned a little bit. We were together for about 10 years. I actually ran a leadership college in Sydney, Australia. And my responsibility day to day was to oversee the staff, of which I think prior to COVID, at the height of our growth, we had about 100 staff, many of whom I directly oversaw and had a leadership team that I invested into and built under me. I had executives above me as well. So I was in quite a senior role, but the CEO and the executive team were a level above me, and I was quite involved with them as well. So did that for about 10 years, and then more recently, I finished up there and have been working with another business school in Sydney and running their faculty. They've more recently been in a bit more of a startup mode. So they got hit pretty hard by COVID and did a big restructure, had to let go of a lot of team. And so I've been in there for the last couple of years working with them to build the team up, instill culture, kind of reestablish and redream, if you will, with that team about who they are and who they want to be. And then on top of that, I've been consulting and doing a whole lot of leadership development work with small to medium-sized businesses. So a lot of businesses that are under 100, working directly with the business owners and their team. Or even if, there's a lot of founders that don't even have a team yet. So I've worked in that space for the last couple of years as well. And so that's been a really cool experience, helping them grow and learn how to run the business in a new way so that their team can start carrying with them instead of them maybe having to carry themselves. So if you want a title, I suppose, I'd call myself a leadership coach, facilitator, and speaker. So I do a lot of all those three things around Australia at the moment. And it's a whole lot of fun.
Very cool. I thought I'd hop maybe into first principles, and as basic as it may seem, but how would you define leadership?
Great question. I think for me, the place to start is firstly to say that, if you look at all the research on leadership, there are probably over 100 different definitions of what leadership is. And there's a reason for that. For me, leadership is a lot of things, but it is highly contextual. So what a leader should look like is highly dependent upon the situation that leader finds themselves in, what the requirements are to be successful in that situation, what the people are needing from that leader in that situation. To really put it simply, I would say leadership does come down to some foundational principles, but exactly how they get outworked can look different in different scenarios. So from that foundation, I'll give you a few thoughts on what I think leadership is. I do think leadership has something to do with having a vision that is, all about the future and where you want to go, where you want that team to go or your business to go. It's about having a picture of what that looks like. And the second thing for me is the leadership is typified by the ability of that person to take a group of people with them. So for me, if I could put it in a sentence, I would say that leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others to the pursuit of a goal or an outcome that they all collectively agree upon and want to aim towards. And it's about the journey of transformation and change that those people undertake themselves towards the pursuit of that goal.
Very good. I really like that. Well, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, well, I don't know. I feel like it's a very academic definition. You could say that leadership is influence. John Maxwell, it's a classic quote of what leadership is. It's only one of, like I said, over 100 different really deep definitions of what leadership is. But I do think in a lot of ways, leadership is about mobilizing people to the achievement of goals and often towards the betterment of themselves and something else outside of themselves. So usually, leadership it's exemplified by those kinds of results.
No, I really like the definition because I think even when you think about someone who has stepped into managing a team, the thing I've noticed is most people, they get the title and don't really know what to do with it.
Correct.
Right. And then I think that it's spot on what you said. It's A, having somewhere you want to go, and B, the ability to rally, strategize, and actually bring people to that place that you actually
correct
thought of in your mind's eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's I think it's much easier said than done. The act of leadership, doing leadership is the tough bit. And I often say leaders only learn to lead by leading. You can go to a business school or a leadership college all your life and you can learn the principles. And those things are really good and important to learn. But it's not until you actually go and do it that you realize what it really takes. And so it's very easy to be an armchair critic of leaders.
Totally.
And, but again, it's like, unless you're in that spot leading from that position, understanding all of the nuances of what that role requires of you and all the complexities that you have to navigate, it's really hard to truly understand what leadership really means in that context. So that's why I think it's pretty multifaceted, but it's not easy, and it does take a lot of courage to be able to lead well in any business or any organization, whether it be a startup all the way through to multinational, big picture, huge organizations with thousands of people in it. Leadership at any level is difficult because you're dealing with people and you're dealing with yourself. So, totally. There's a whole lot more I could say there, but that's some thoughts.
No, I have to say, I was totally humbled by the time I actually got to lead something real. I thought I knew a lot of stuff. Thought I read a lot of books.
Yes.
And then when I actually did, I was like, I'm much more complicated than I thought.
Yes.
People are much more complicated than I thought. The ability to, even if you have a vision in your mind's eye, thinking about the timing of sharing that vision, how you share that vision, how it gets interpreted by other people, just all these nuances. That was incredibly humbling process.
It is. It's what leadership, in my mind, leadership can be. It's not always, but it can, if you have the right disposition towards what you're doing, it can be the most humbling thing you'll ever do. And it will shape you in ways that you maybe never thought you could be changed and shaped. And that's, I think, one of the beautiful processes of genuinely engaging lovingly in the act of leadership. I think it's a really transformational experience for both you and the people that you lead. If you're coming from the right place, you can be tyrannical as well. You can be an absolute nightmare to work with and for. But if the leader is a person of character that is intent on leading out from that place of good character, leadership is incredibly humbling and incredibly transformational.
Very cool. So before we hit record, we were talking a bit on, as you're currently working with different clients who are kind of going from the scrappy startup phase. We have a really great idea. We got some traction behind it. Now we're getting some team involved, and I know how to do the technical thing. I don't know how to do the the people thing. Talk to that. And then also I'd love to talk about, like you mentioned, the big thing that people are trying to define is what is their culture, and how do we take that from this thing that's just there to verbalizing it so it's trainable and passable to more people.
It's really good, really important. So yeah, I'll speak to the first one, just that the journey of going from, let's say, solopreneur or, I'm doing it myself. I call them the CEO, the Chief Everything Officer. I think it's apt. That the journey of going from the sole operator of a business, and you've got a dream and a desire in your heart. You've started this thing. You've done the grind. You've been working towards whatever the goal is that you had to start this business and build this team. Maybe you've added a couple of people to start with. That transition of moving from you to others is a huge one. For me, it's a shift of two things. It's a shift of mindset, and it's a shift of skill set. So for me, the mindset piece is all about understanding that there's a set of values that you hold that you now need to ensure that others hold if they are going to be successful doing the thing that you're about to hand over to them. So moving from that technical operator to people leader shift, there is a shift of values that needs to take place, whereby you're recruiting people that share maybe a similar work ethic, a similar set of ideals or ideas about how we want to work together to achieve this goal that we've got. I think it's really important that you think about that when you're hiring people. Don't just hire for skill, hire for commonality around a set of values. That will stand you in good stead, and that'll come to the culture piece in a second as well.
Let me interrupt. What are the type of questions you would want to ask in that interview process to be able to define that?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, if I'm in an interview scenario like that, firstly, I'd want to know what my values are. So as a business, it might be about doing the journey. For starters, before you even ask the question, you've got to define what's important to you in the business. So for example, if success in your business requires proactivity, I'd be asking some questions about what that person values regarding getting the job done, and circling that around this idea of proactivity. So, hey, tell me in an interview, I'm always after behavioral based questions. So I'm looking for what they're going to do and what they have done. I'm not looking for necessarily a future focused idea, because anybody can sit there and tell you what should happen. I want to know what did happen. I want to know how they did handle things. So I'm asking behavioral questions about past experience, and I'm looking for markers that they share the values and the principles that I need them to have in order to be successful in whatever that role is. So if the role requires proactivity, I'm centering around, hey, tell me about a situation in the past that required you to be highly proactive at work. Maybe you were given a goal or a task to achieve. I want you to tell me what you did. What did that proactivity look like to you in that particular moment? And you can tell whether someone's going to be making it up or not quite quickly. So ask them to tell you about a past scenario that demonstrated the thing you're looking for. Probably the other thing I'd do in terms of questions I'd be asking is I would ask them to explain why certain things are important. So maybe they have talked about certain, what I'm doing is I'm listening for them to tell me about their work experience and about what matters to them. And then I want to dig in those areas. So maybe that person says, oh, look, I really hate it when people don't show up on time. Okay, I want to know about that. Tell me why. Why does that tick you off? Why does that upset you? Why is that important to you? And what you're doing is you're uncovering that person's values and what's important to them. And you're going to quickly figure out whether those things align with your ways of doing things or whether there's a misalignment. And you're going to need to either address that when they come on team, or you might actually not hire them on that basis. So best time to fire someone is before you hire them. And you only can do that if you have a good interview process.
Very good. Very good. I love that. Not just hiring for the thing that needs to get done, but considering their values, which necessitates you to define your values and what's important to you, and then making sure that's part of the interview process.
I could speak a bit further to that really quickly. One of the things that I encourage, and I've found a lot of business owners don't do this, especially in the early days, is they don't take time to actually write someone a job profile when they're hiring. They hire with this very general set of things that they want this person to do, and it's very unclear. I would say before you hire, write the job profile, clearly articulate 3 to 5 key performance areas that you want that person to drive results in. Describe in 2 or 3 dot points what each of those things looks like, and then set one KPI for each of those areas. A KPI is a key performance indicator, so it's a measure of what it looks like to do that successfully. For me, if you can clearly articulate what the job is, you'll be very clear in the interview about what you're looking for. And then when you finish that job profile, at the bottom of the job profile, have 2 lists. One list of the top 5 skills that person needs to have to be successful, and one list of the top 5 character traits that you believe a person would need to have in order to function well in that role and in your team. And if you can outline all of those things in a 1 or 2 page job profile, you will go, that'll take you 1,000 times further down the track to knowing exactly what you're looking for in an interview and to build the right type of team.
No, that's brilliant. It's almost ultimately you're defining the problem you're trying to solve in your organization as clearly as possible, and then working backwards to who would be the right fit to actually do that.
Correct.
And if someone doesn't fit it, you have a measuring stick in some ways and say, because the reality is people could take risks on different people, but it would be a very calculated risk, knowing maybe one of these characteristics are missing, but I see it's a developable one. Yeah, very, very cool.
Absolutely.
So I think the other thought that I had as we were thinking about, we were talking going from the scrappy startup to a more formalized organization. We spoke a little bit about values. How would you encourage founders to then start talking about and defining their culture and finding ways to explain that to their team?
Yeah, good question. So for me, I think culture is, it's actually, funnily enough, it's quite all-encompassing. So I think the first step in working out what your culture is to understand how culture works and what it actually is in the first place. For me, a good place to start is to think about your core values. It is to think about what's important to you and why you do what you do. For me, I've got some simple kind of techniques that I would use to draw some of that out. For me, culture isn't just values though, because values you can write them on a wall and say, well, that's my value. But what happens in the halls? What happens actually on the ground day to day? If what you write on the wall is not present in the halls, it isn't culture. It's just words. So for me, culture is about what you consistently do in your business that ultimately drives the success of your business. I'll give you one very quick example. If you've heard of Enron, right? Enron was one of the greatest American corporate failures in history, right? These guys were founded in about, I think it was in the 80s. They were one of the Fortune 500 top 10. I think they did that over a fair few years. They were ranked a number of years in a row in the top 10. They were doing growth Like their numbers were in the billions of dollars of revenue. So we're talking a hugely successful, high growth company. Interestingly enough, the words on their wall was communication, respect, integrity, and excellence. And yet years later, they were discovered to be the most fraudulent company in American corporate history. They were stealing money. They were hiding balance sheets. Like, they were so dodgy. So that's why I mean, for me, like, if you're trying to build a culture, don't just start and finish with your values. Work out what's actually being lived and work out how to live it out. So the question I always ask people when they're trying to define their values is, how do you turn a value into a culture? How do you take something that sounds good and actually live it out? For me, I think culture has 5 core aspects to it. And for me, this is kind of the framework that I think about culture from. So for me, the first aspect of building good culture is about clarity. It's about having unapologetic standards, knowing exactly what you're looking for and where you're going. It's also about providing clarity to your team. And that's why we talked a bit about the job profile, things like that. So great culture is clearly articulated. It's clearly understood by the team. Everybody knows what they're doing, why they're doing it, who they're doing it with, what they're doing it for. So that's a really core element of what culture is all about. And to me, I often say, people, A-grade people, if you will, they don't stay in B-grade environments. And an A-grade environment that keeps A-grade people around is one that is very clear on who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for, etc. So get clear on that as a starting point. The second aspect of culture is, for me, it's about consistency, and that is all about your systems. It's about your processes. It's about understanding what is the fabric of the organization, or if you let's use a car analogy, what are the systems under the hood that makes the engine work really well? Or if you're talking in business, it's about what are the processes, procedures, and systems that you need to have in place in order for people to successfully deliver on your promise to your clients, right? So think about this. How does McDonald's produce the same cheeseburger every single time with a 14-year-old new staff member that's just started and they're 1 week into their job? How do they ensure that the result is the same? It's because they have consistency in terms of processes, procedures, and systems that make it very clear exactly what's expected, how to do it. They've got the tools to do the job. They've got the systems and processes written down and clearly defined so that even a 14-year-old new staff member can deliver on the result. So for me, consistency and clarity go hand in hand. Think of it like this, right? If you're trying to, get fit, if you're trying to develop in your fitness, I often say to people, whatever you try and fix by project, something that should be fixed by process, it's not going to produce you the culture or results you want. So think about the gym. Wow. If I was to try and lose weight, but I go on yo-yo diets, or I go to the gym and do 30-day shreds once every 6 months, is that going to produce the consistent results that get me to my ultimate goal of, let's say, losing 20 kilos or putting on 10 kilos of muscle? Like, the answer is no, right? So rather than just having projects that try and fix things quickly and a sprint, but then nothing behind it, you actually need to develop the system that gets you the results. So in other words, culture for me is something that happens every day with people's simple, small, everyday actions. And if you can bake into those SOPs, your standard operating procedures, your simple ways of doing things, if you can bake your culture in to those things, then you'll find that you're developing a lot more consistent results that, align to who you are. I'm hoping I'm making sense, and feel free to pause me if you want to dig into anything.
No, keep going. This is really great.
That's definitely one thing I think is important.
Yeah. So you mentioned that clarity, consistency.
Yep. So there's 3 more that I think are really important. For me, conviction is another big one. So the culture of your team is actually set by the example of your leaders. Any culture that is worth following and living out is one that is ultimately best exampled by the team of leaders that carry and are responsible for that culture. So if you want to build a great business, from startup all the way through to scale up, for example, you're going to need to understand that you are the ultimate carrier of the culture. And if people see you doing the things you say are important, they will follow you. If you don't do the things you say are important, you've just lost all your credibility. So people don't do what they hear, they do what they see you doing. So for me, lead by example. When you do that, you create culture. If you try and lead simply by instruction, in other words, just telling people what to do, that will not deliver you the culture you want. It might get you an outcome, but it won't get you a culture. So it's about understanding culture is on you as the leader to exemplify that first. And once you do that, you've set the platform for everybody else to come along and do the same thing. So that was the third one. It's all about having that, that conviction about why you do what you do and understanding that your example matters most. The fourth one is chemistry. If you look at any high-performing team, there is always a deep sense of chemistry in that team. They have each other's back. They fight for each other. They know that what they do contributes something to everybody else. They understand what their role is and how it fits in the team. And so chemistry is about connecting with people. It's about building what you might call psychological safety, which is essentially, can I trust you and can you trust me? That's what psychological safety is. It's this ability to be able to connect with each other at a deeper level than just the transactional tasks that I'm doing. Do they care for me? Do they care about what's happening in my life outside of work? Do they understand what's important to me? So chemistry is one of those things it feels like it's a little bit intangible. It's hard to touch, right? It's hard to get your hands on what is chemistry and how to build it. For me, how do you build good chemistry? It's about creating experiences that bring people together. So if you think of people that go through tragedy, for example, are often joined at the hip by that tragedy. And it's the things they go through together that kind of meld them into a group. So for me, building a great high performance culture is about going through things together. It doesn't mean that you have to manufacture some tragedy for everyone to experience, but it's about engaging in challenging experiences that bring you together. So I often found in my experience of building teams, when we did things as a team where we set a really ambitious goal and we all worked together and achieved it, it was like it built this sense of camaraderie that otherwise never would have been there and we never would have had. So really creating those opportunities for connection and for camaraderie is super important. Sometimes it's actually all about what you do off the field, as it were, outside of work. It's about, creating space for moments to occur where people connect with each other. And it's also about telling stories that exemplify the culture you're trying to build and sharing those stories as a team, allowing others to share their story and be vulnerable. And when you do that, you create this chemistry where everyone's kind of leaning into each other. And then the last one is what I call...
what's something practical that maybe, let's say it is a founder, he's gone to a place, has a team of 10, 15 people, and he's like, you know what, this is a big thing that's missing. What's just, even in this week, what's something practical they could consider to grow the chemistry as a team?
Yeah. A couple of things. I think have fun. So create some intentional time to go and have fun as a team, and make sure that fun, there needs to be time where the fun doesn't have anything particular to do with work. Aside from that, one of the things you can do is set an ambitious goal with your team, not for your team, with your team. So, put the feelers out and get them to contribute to that. and then ask them the question, who do we need to be and how do we need to show up for each other in a way that would make us successful in that goal, to reach that goal. I think that's a really crucial piece of the puzzle. And then other really simple things, I think, how do you show up for your team when they are going through some dark times? So if someone's really going through it, how you show up for them is going to tell you, it's going to tell them more about how you feel about them than any words you could ever say. So I often say, I don't think you should ever use tragedy as a means to an end, if that makes sense. Never do that. That's just manipulation. What I do believe you should do is care for your people enough that if they are going through something, show up for them. And when you show up for them in those dark times, they'll run through a brick wall when they're back on their feet. Right? And that's the thing that creates that sense of chemistry. Chemistry is about trust. It's about, can I lean on you when I'm going through it and when I need help? And can you lean on me when you need help? And if we all show up for each other and we have an attitude that says, I'm here for you, let's go together, then you can tell that chemistry is going to successfully perpetuate through the team. So show up for your people. Do it daily. Care about them. Ask them questions that don't relate to their job, And I think those are some key ways to start building that chemistry.
Yeah, and I think that's it's such a obvious but overlooked part of leading people, remembering that they are people at the end of the day. Mind blown. Right, the dignity of humanity, and even when you were talking about creating big, ambitious goals, I'm just reminded of the fact that maybe I'm an optimist, but I really believe many people want to do significant things with their life, and so they want to contribute to something that matters, and so people will do the hard work. I think it was so brilliant what you said. Give them an ambitious goal that they worked with you on, not that you suddenly had overnight and you're ready for it to go the next day. But get them involved, and because people actually do want to run hard and live a life that matters. It's just like we were going back to the first principles of leadership. What's our ability to mobilize them? What's our ability to get that team together and do something really awesome?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And this is something I heard actually from Janine Alice, the founder of Boost. I've done some work with her over the last couple of years, helping her with her business academy and building out their course, coaching a whole bunch of their business leaders and things like that. And I remember talking with her about this, and one of the questions that came was like, how do you motivate people? Or how do you build a team that's motivated and driven and pushing forward? And she's like, well, hire motivated people. So I think you're right to say that. I think it's a great growth mentality to have, to see people through this lens of everybody has potential, everybody has dreams and desires, everybody has things they want to achieve. And look, I agree with that. I really do. I will say that there are people out there who, in one way or another, in their current state, are either broken through their own series of choices or by situations in life, and they are not particularly motivated. There are people out there that are not in that space. And so it is important to recognize that, if you want to build a great team, you need to hire and build great people. And so that does start with looking for the right team and knowing what to look for to start with. In all honesty, you will spend so much time investing in somebody that maybe is very unmotivated, and 80% of your attention goes there because you're trying to push water uphill, right? Whereas if you've got someone who is motivated and you've hired them and they are pushing forward and they want to grow, they've got that internal drive, what you'll find is you're not pushing water uphill, you're pushing it down. There's already a natural momentum that comes with that person. Right. So it is important to realize, I think every human being has huge potential. Unfortunately, not everybody reaches it, and some of that is because people get in their own way. And so there's two sides. As a coach, everything in me says, I want to help you and I want to give you every opportunity to grow. But as an employer, sometimes the answer is, well, that's just not going to be here yet. Maybe it's not no, it's just not now.
Yeah.
So you've got to hold that tension, I think, of really having a strong belief in people, but understanding and protecting the value of your company and what you've built, and understanding that you need the right people on the boat with you or in the bus with you, as it were, so that you can build a strong team and a foundation for growth in the future.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, so clarity, consistency, conviction, chemistry.
Yep. And the
Number
last
5.
one is celebration. This is a fun one. I think all great culture hinges on a leader's ability to celebrate, to reward, to recognize the things that they want to see happen in the business, and the milestones that get them closer to their goals. So if you want a culture where people are proactive, reward proactivity, recognize proactivity, celebrate proactivity. So for me, and I think more and more these days, like the young people coming into the workforce, they're not looking for a 1 year, review where they get measured on their performance and someone says thank you after a 30-minute meeting and some kind of metrics that they've been given that show them that they're doing good. They want it every week. They want it every day. They want what's called fast feedback. They want short, small bursts of intentional celebration to show that what they do matters. And I don't think that's limited to Gen Z either. Well, I think, hey, Johnny, I saw you call that lead and have a really powerful conversation with them without anybody asking you to do that. And I actually noticed that when you spoke to them, you were really positive about the results that they can get if they follow through on, saying yes to what we're offering. I also noticed that you handled their objections really, really well. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you for that. No one, no one has sat and monitored you over your shoulder, but I just want you to know I was just walking by and I saw you do that call and it was brilliant. Well done. Keep it up. Like, it's as simple as those small acts of feedback. That's just as much of a celebration as the yearly staff awards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So think of it like this. I had a chat with a marriage counselor once, and they asked me a question. They said, look, if you want to have a great marriage, I need to ask you a question. What do you do every day? What do you do every week? What do you do every month? What do you do every quarter? And what do you do every year to invest in the health of that relationship? And I've used that framework in business. So and I'll give you the example. In marriage, it could be sitting down for 5 minutes every day and talking about how your day was. Every week, it might be going on a reasonably cheap but nice date night where you get time together to share a little bit deeper about how you're going and what's happening in your life, having fun, connecting at a deeper level and enjoying time together. Every month, it could be something a bit more. Maybe it's like a night away, or it could be a more expensive date night or something like that. And again, the same principle applies about what happens when you do that. Every quarter, or maybe just, it may not be every quarter, but let's go to every year, for example, could be the family holiday where you're away for a week or 2 weeks and you're spending more extended time together, valuing the family. So think about this in business. What do you do every day? Maybe it's a 15-minute pre-brief, debrief. So bookend the day. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we did. Here's what we're aiming for. Here's whether we got there or not and who we're going to celebrate for what they did today. What do we did? What did we do good? What do we need to learn? How can we improve tomorrow? Right? So take moments every day to celebrate. And it doesn't have to be huge. You don't need a birthday cake every time, or you don't need, people don't care about confetti as much as we think they do. They want genuine thanks and recognition. And recognition, by the way, is the cheapest way to reward people. It's free. All you have to do is use your time and a little bit of forethought, and you'll probably find your team are, moving in the right direction, and they're repeating the things that you just rewarded. So those are some really simple things you can do. And again, think about every, maybe once a month, it's like team member of the month, but you want to celebrate that a little bit more. Maybe there's a reward in there of some sort. It could be a voucher, or it could be a, whatever it is. And then obviously once a year, maybe you do like a team awards night or a celebration, Christmas, whatever it is, to celebrate the whole year and what you achieved. Have some fun with it, do some funny awards, and allow the team to contribute to it. And if you do that, I think that's a really great way to build culture. So the big key here is simple. It's really simple. People repeat and replicate what they see recognized and rewarded.
Yeah.
If you remember that, it'll change the game for you as a leader. People repeat and replicate what you recognize and reward. So do it every day. Do it every week, do it every month, do it every quarter, do it every year. Find creative ways to get people involved, and you'll find that your team, the culture improves dramatically. So just be strategic about what you celebrate, right? So celebrate the culture and the behaviors that you want to see. And if you identify those things and then celebrate them, your culture will improve dramatically very quick.
Yeah, very good. I really like this framework, Cam, because I feel like it's holistic, and in a lot of ways it gives people who may be founders who are a bit more technical almost a list of things that they need to go through and grow. And
absolutely.
And I was even thinking about this for myself. I celebrate, for chemistry, the ability to create experiences for the team, and I think I feel uncomfortable with that sometimes, because you're a bit of the weird one.
Why do you feel uncomfortable? Okay. Right. Correct. And that's right. And I think as well, it's about reading the room, if that makes sense. It's about understanding what matters to your team. Like if you celebrate things in ways your team don't care about, then you won't get the results you're looking for. So, sometimes team members don't want to be called out in front of everybody because it's just not how they operate. So they'll hate you for it. So their version of recognition is not that. Maybe it's the quiet conversation off to the side to just say, hey, I'm just really grateful. And I just want to say a huge thank you. And I know you don't like fanfare, so I wanted to stop and pause and just take a moment personally to say thank you. Like that can be more powerful for an individual than the fanfare of a corporate celebration. So it's actually about understanding how people enjoy being celebrated, because everybody's different, and you can survey that. That's a really simple solution. Find out what your team like. Some people might like to go out for dinner. So, okay, great. Go buy them a voucher. Give them $200 for doing a great job, and they'll go out to dinner with their wife because maybe they've sacrificed a whole lot, and and they've left time at, they've put in time at work when they could have been with their families. Well, okay, gift them with time back. Hey, go take your family out. Here's something nice. I wanted to honor you because what you do is so incredible and I'm grateful. So here's $200 to go spend on your family. Have a great night. Have a great day. Do whatever you want with it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many ways to do that. So it's about reading the room, understand, know your team. And if you do that, then you can celebrate them in a way that they receive it and that they will respond well to.
Yeah. Brilliant. Cam, I have so much I could talk to you about. We'll wrap up.
No worries.
Right about here, but I think as we're wrapping up, I just think very practically, people who want to grow in the leadership, what's some practical resources or ways that they can begin or continue that journey?
Yeah, great question. Look, I think there's so much resource out there nowadays. There are so many fantastic books and podcasts. I think really simply, I would say start by investing in your leadership development every day by doing something little. So for example, on your commute to work or to the office or wherever you work from, take time every day to invest, let's say 30 minutes listening to a podcast or reading a book that invests intentionally in your leadership. I can give you many examples of great things you can read or great podcasts you can listen to. This would be a great one, for example. That's a great start. The second thing I'd encourage every leader to do is take time to reflect weekly on your leadership that week. So ask yourself some key questions. What did I do well as a leader this week, and what showed me that I did well? What do I want to improve on that I didn't do so well, and what's the evidence for that? And then what's one area that I just know I really want to grow in, that I need to keep focus on, that will help me continue to grow into the leader I want to be. So I think, at least reflect weekly, if not daily. Invest in your learning about what leadership is all about. And then probably the last thing is get a coach. Engage someone that has led before and is ahead of the game, and they will mentor and engage you in ways that will help you to expand your thinking and challenge the way you do what you do. And they'll ask you questions that you've never asked yourself, and that will also help you to grow as a leader. So those three things for me are the core aspects of how you can grow.
Brilliant. Very, very good. Cam, thank you so much. Massively appreciate your time. And
my pleasure.
I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people. Well, a big thank you to Cam for all that incredible wisdom that he shared with us. And hey, if you made it this far into the podcast, we have a special gift for you. As you would have heard in the podcast, Cam was talking about a different way of doing role profiles. And so Cam has generously offered to provide the templates that he would provide his clients with. And so if you go ahead into the description, show notes, all those things, you'll find a link to Cam's website, and you can go ahead and download that template and put it to good use. So thank you again, Cam, for that. Also, this is for people who actually watch to the end. So hey, keep watching to the end. You just never know what will show up, and we'll see you next time.